Well, it doesn't make any difference one way or the other to the American people who rules Taiwan. And nobody wants to see violence. It would be terrible if China invaded and people were killed there. No one wants that. But if the Chinese rolled into outer Mongolia, does anybody in here think that America should intervene, start a war to protect Mongolia from Chinese aggression? Or there's some things that are just out of our purview and out of our jurisdiction and cost too much. And by the way, back to the cost, Mr. Kristol has said repeatedly just how affordable all of this is. But our national debt is $30 trillion right now. We spend something like $1 trillion a year on militarism if you count the VA and the care and feeding of the nukes at the Energy Department and the rest of that. We absolutely cannot afford it. And if you ask the people who lost people in the wars or in the terrorist attacks against this country in the meantime, their costs are a lot higher. Now, if you have a think tank that's financed by arms manufacturers, then these are good times, and you don't probably understand what anybody else has to worry about. But there is severe, as they call it, economic anxiety in this country, mostly caused by the boom and bust crash cycle that we have. They call it the business cycle. It's the inflationary money cycle. And the reason they keep expanding the money supply is to make the world empire seem free. For all those checks he was cashing, they never raised his taxes once in the highest bracket because they just borrowed the money from China and printed it instead. And so then regular people are blowing their brains out because they're forced to carry this economy on their back.
Okay, next question over there, please.
Is there any real benefit to the American people from our policy of global domination, including regime change? Perhaps access to oil and minerals? Certainly not. Roger Stern, an economic geographer at Princeton University, published a study in 2010 which determined the U.S. had, quote, misallocated $8 trillion between 1976 and 2007, protecting the sea lanes in and out of the Persian Gulf when oil's safe transport was never really under threat. We spent a few more trillions since then. This is far more than Americans even spend consuming Middle Eastern oil. Even if somehow we could just scoop up all the oil and walk away with it, as Donald Trump seems to believe, it could never be worth the cost in blood and grief or the opportunities lost when people turn away from America for acting in such a ruthless manner. They are occupying and stealing Syrian oil today. Elon Musk celebrated the coup against the popularly elected government in Bolivia in 2018, crowing on Twitter that it's great because he needs their lithium for his Teslas. His company may have played zero role in that coup for all I know, but the US government moved quickly to support it. And that still raises the important question, what is America's national interest over the long term? And is it good for the rest of us when selfish, narrow special interests justify violent intervention in other people's countries for their own good in the short term? And let's just presume that the financial gains far outweigh the costs when companies like Freeport-McMoRan are able to run off with all of West Papua's gold, even accounting for the taxpayers' cost for U.S. government involved there. What shall it profit a nation if they gain the whole world and lose their own soul? By committing horrible, deadly sins against helpless people. Part of the problem here is that the neoconservatives and their neoliberal counterparts never really understood what liberty was about in the first place. It's a great way to finance a PNAC, but Pentagon contracting is not the free market. It's corrupt crony capitalism. And due to the economic deformations of America's permanent war system, the most wealthy counties in the country now are not here in New York City, but in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., where our supposed public servants live and work. And the richest in this city, as all Americans and the rest of the world know, are all market-proof due to the so-called Greenspan put. They get bailed out by Congress and the Federal Reserve System every time they make a few $1 trillion worth of bad bets, and while regular people are forced to carry their weight on our backs. Our sons come home from war unable to find good work, unlike in all the promises. And this is another major reason for the current crisis of confidence by the American people in our supposed betters who rule us. So no, the nation as a whole doesn't benefit financially or otherwise from acts of violence and coercion by the American government. Read NSC 68. Paul Nitze did not understand economics. The whole imperial project is a fool's errand.